So I'm looking at all these posts on social media of snow in Europe, snow in Texas, and we haven't had like precipitation or moisture or anything for I think almost a month now. Like a little bit of stuff, like I can see my neighbor's grass, the yard. This is the prairie provinces of Canada. I shouldn't be seeing any of this, but here we are, dry as a bone. Everybody else is getting lots of snow. It does make it easier for driving though. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I am going to bring you guys a video that some of you have already started requesting, and that is my top 10 books of 2017. I don't know what it is about the end of the year, but the end of the year seems to be when I film my most favorite videos. I love filming anticipated releases of the next year. I love filming my top 10 of this year and just all of those fun things that come along with wrapping up another year of reading, wrapping up another year of YouTube, just wrapping up another year of a lot of things happening. So I had some pretty good books this year. As for the filming of this video, I have not yet completed my Goodreads goal, but I am well on my way of completing that. So hopefully by the time I complete my year wrap up, I will have completed my goal of 60 books for 2017. But even though I'm still reading, most of the end of the year reading for me always ends up being rereads, so I'm not including any rereads into this top 10. These are all brand new to me books that I read in 2017. So without further ado, let's jump into the list of my favorite books for 2017. I'm not going to go too much into what the book was about. I have reviewed or put content or anything up for all of these books on my channel. I'll leave links for any specific reviews or links for the wrap-ups in which I talked about these books if you guys are curious for more information. I'm just going to share what I liked and what I enjoyed and why it was my favorite. Coming in at number 10 was Sun and Moon, Ice and Snow by Jessica Day George. Jessica Day George is one of my favorite fairy tale retelling authors. I really liked this one. This is East of the Moon, West of the Sun. I will leave the original fairy tale name, if I can find it, somewhere along here. So when I saw this book and found the premise of what this fairy tale was, and there's a couple other retellings of it as well, I wanted to pick it up because of the movie The Polar Bear Prince. And I really enjoyed this retelling more so than I enjoyed the movie. Actually, from what I can remember of the movie, that was like eons ago. And I really like Jessica Day George's ability to take what could be potentially awkward content or content that could go either way, but still keep it appropriate for the story and appropriate for young adults. And I'd never have any problems so far with her content. Even her magic in her stories don't seem to overflow the character development, the character growth, and the overall storyline. So she keeps it pretty well balanced throughout the whole story. And that's what I felt with this one. I really enjoyed the female character, her strength, her growth. Her character development was really well done, and I enjoyed that there was a relationship built between the love interest in some way, that it wasn't just, oh, you're a prince, I'm in love, you know, at the end of the happily ever after, but it was actually a relationship they developed along the way. I did give the book a 5-star rating. Fairy tale retellings normally get a 5-star rating for me, and there are actually maybe 1 or 2 more on this list. Big surprise. The next book apparently is a middle grade book because that's what Goodreads considered it, but I find it in the young adult section when I go to the bookstores. And that was Beauty and the Beast, Lost in a Book by Jennifer Donnelly. This came out around the time Beauty and the Beast, the live action movie, came out. And a ton of these like promo movie books came out where like they don't really need to be written. They're just written to promote the movie or to be a part of the movie story. This one sounded really good though. It didn't sound like just your regular promo book. It actually felt like it could tie into the story a bit. And I really, really enjoyed this. It was very, very fast paced, which is why I think it's considered middle grade. I read this in a day in one setting. I really enjoyed how it does kind of connect into the movie a little bit. And you get a little bit more insight of Belle and what her heart is leading her towards and her desires and stuff, and just some of the relationship building she had with the Beast as well. It kind of gives you a little bit of a medium insight to some of the relationship building she had that we don't get in the movie. I rated this 4 stars, but the reason it's one of my favorite books of 2017 was just the enchantment of it, the way the story pulled you along, the way I wanted to know what happened, and how well written it was. It was just overall a really beautiful story. I really enjoyed some of the character growth and development you had with Belle and the Beast. And they really did tie it into the movie timeline very well, so it doesn't stand out on its own completely and it's just sitting there like, why was this written? It actually can tie into the movie timeline really well, and that's what I enjoyed. And I really like when a book can do that, especially with a really well established movie franchise, how they can tie in the book world to that. And with Beauty and the Beast, books just seem to be a go-to promotion or a go-to thing that goes along with it because of Belle, and more time spent in the Beast library is always good for me, so that's what I really liked. And basically this was like a bibliophile's dream of getting lost, literally getting lost in a book, like the Chronicles of Narnia or the Lord of the Rings. Like, just, you want to go in and you want to live in that world, and that's what Belle gets to do. It's just, I was living for this. It was really, really well done for this bibliophile's heart. Coming in at number 8 was A Time to Die by Nadine Brandes. I very much enjoyed this. This was one of our Coffee and Chapters Christian YA book club picks. I really liked this. This was such a well done story. It had so many moments where it just kept me guessing and kept me going, and I just had to know what happened to this character. So many heartbreaking moments that just drag you along, and you're just dragged through the mud for these characters, and all of the things that our main character is going through is just heartbreaking and overwhelming at times, but I love how the story is developing. I have yet to finish this trilogy because I'm actually looking on getting them in physical copy. I was sent all of them on ebook, but I would really like to read them in physical form, and I know Nadine and the publisher are working on getting that available on Amazon and Book Depository and all that. But for me, it just takes a lot longer to get certain books than other people, so I'm hoping to get them physically. But I really, really enjoyed this. I love the faith elements and how she wrote a dystopian with a really solid faith element background, but could really cater to fans who love dystopian books and tie all of that together. At number 7, I have A Dangerous Engagement by Melanie Dickerson. This is the third and final book in her Regency Spies of London trilogy, and I loved this character so much because I related to her in so many ways. I really liked her kind of pluck up for courage, how she kind of had to build herself up and convince herself that she needed to be brave and, you know, just didn't need to run away and hide. And sometimes I feel like with a lot of things in my life, that's what I need to do. And just some of the fear and anxiety that Felicity dealt with, I really liked how this character was written. And because I identified with her so much, I think is why I enjoyed this book so much. Plus the danger and espionage and spying and stuff just really kicks it in full tilt in this one. And you're just pulling yourself along in this book because you're waiting to see if your characters get caught, and it's terrifying, and it was so well written that I really enjoy these Regency books by Melanie. At number 6, I chose Almost Autumn by Mary Ann Caroon, which I'm still probably pronouncing wrong. I loved this book. This is a World War II book. I saw it in my library as a new releases in their new releases section, and the cover really enchanted me to picking up this book. And it wasn't that the book was emotionally pulling or gripping while I was reading this book, it was just how much it sat with me and haunted me afterwards. This one is set in Norway, and I'm really enjoying that this year I found books set in other countries that you don't hear about in World War II fiction, because a lot of those are set from the Allied perspective, so either American or British, or they're set in Germany, from people who dealt with the Nazi regime in Germany, but you don't see what Germany did to other countries or what happened to other countries with other leaders at the time. So I really enjoyed Almost Autumn for that. And again, it just haunted me afterwards, and just because it didn't outright tell you everything that happened, a lot of it was just assumed. And because you put the pieces together while you're reading it, you're not really told it. That's when it kind of just sits with you. And so it was just fascinating to pick up another country's story of what their people went through during this time. And now for my top 5 books. So coming in at number 5, I have Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray. I'm surprised I like this, to be honest, because I have not liked much of Claudia Gray's books. In fact, I've tried other Claudia Gray Star Wars books after reading this one and DNF'd it for content. I was surprised that I had absolutely no issues with this one and thoroughly enjoyed it. This one was a read-along with my friend Joanne from Instagram, and it was an audiobook that I got from Audible, and the Star Wars audiobooks are incredible. I love the sound effects, the voice cast, the music in the background. Like, they are so well done audiobooks. It's like listening to a movie. It was so well done. But what I liked about this one was how it connected to so much of the Star Wars universe. It connected to Rogue One, it connected to the prequel trilogy, it connected to the original trilogy. It had so many connections. I just spent my time Star Wars fangirling the entire time I was reading this book, because I'm reading and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is from like the original trilogy, or hey, this connects to Rogue One, and I can't believe they just connected it to the prequel trilogy somehow, which was my least favorite trilogy, by the way. But I loved how they pulled that in because it was just so stinking cool. Plus, you get to read more about the Organas and Leia's family on Alderaan and just life on Alderaan. And I really enjoyed having that background as well and just seeing more of those characters again. You get to meet a certain little sassy droid once, and you also get to meet a certain protocol droid. Again, this is one of those books that connected so well to a movie franchise and pulled in other parts of the franchise. I know this is part of like Journey to the Last Jedi, so these books are all written according to pulling in side stories into the new Star Wars universe, and I'm loving this. So I really enjoyed this one. It was really well written, and I was just glad that I ended up enjoying a Claudia Gray book, because I have not had luck with her in the past for content. Coming in at number 4 was The Goose Girl by Shannon Hale. All of the fairy tale retelling world has been telling me I need to read this book, and I put it off because I thought the cover was so ugly. I looked at it on Book Outlet so many times, but I was so put off by the cover that I decided not to get it. I was shopping in Chapters one day and I saw it, and I had to pick it up and take a double look at it because it has a brand new cover change. The whole series of the books of Bay Erin got a cover update, and I am loving it. So I picked it up, read it, and regretted not picking it up sooner. This was such an enchanting book, such a well done story. I loved the main character and her growth and her development. I love the friendships, and the side characters in the story were just incredible. The side characters and the relationship developments, and also like when a character is carrying on a deception, I do love it when a character actually tells somebody so they can seek help and seek somebody to be on their side. And I love that how that was developed in here, that it wasn't just her constantly deceiving people because she needed to protect herself. She actually did reach out for help at one point. The magic system in here was fascinating, and I'm seeing how it continues on into the rest of the book series, and I'm hoping to get the other two because I have Anna Burning the second book. I really enjoyed that one, but Goose Girl was my favorite out of the two that I've read so far. And like I said, I just enjoyed the main character's growth. I enjoyed the side characters. I also enjoyed the romance. Was adorable, like just so cute. I loved it. I loved the relationship and how it was building, and I just loved the romance. The relationships in here were just on point. I loved them. Coming in at number 3 was A Viscount's Proposal by Melanie Dickerson, the second book in the Regency Spies of London series. Like I said, I really enjoyed Melanie's Regency series. I'm not overly a huge fan of Regency aside from Jane Austen, but I loved the Regency Spies of London series. The second book is probably my favorite out of the trilogy, which is why it's number 3 on this list, because I loved the banter, the relationship, and the conversations reminded so much of like Northanger Abbey and reading Jane Austen, and just some of the banter and the wit that goes along with the conversations. And that's what this one reminded me of so much, which is why I enjoyed it so much more. And I really liked Leora and just her character development and growth. And also Edward, just to see that, you know, sometimes it takes a second look at somebody to really see who they are and not just assumptions you've had about them. So I really liked the way the characters grew in this one, and like I said, the banter, the wit, the relationship building, and the I hated you but now I'm falling in love with you trope. I am here for that one. And of course it was like one of my 5-star rated books this year. It was just so well written. I think it's even the smaller of the three, but I loved how this one was done. Coming in at number 2 was another book I was actually leery about, and that was Star Wars Rebel Rising by Beth Revis. They were releasing, like I said, Star Wars books that tie into the movie franchise. I love Rogue One. Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie out of the entire franchise, and I was not expecting to like that one as much as I did, but I think what I like about it is how much it does connect into the Star Wars universe and the characters and just the ensemble of characters and how the story was done. I loved it. So when I saw that they released a Rogue One book about Jyn's background, I really wanted to look into that. And I really wanted to read more about Jyn's story and how she became the rebel that we meet in Rogue One and where she came from the 8-year-old being left behind and taken up by Saw Gerrera and into the woman on her own when we meet her in Rogue One. So I wanted to see what happened, and it was really well done. The story was really good. The content was also kept very appropriate, even though you understand that two characters may have slept together. Like, you can put 2 and 2 together, but the content was still really well done in a way that I had to actually figure out whether or not anything actually happened. So I really liked how Beth Revis, again, kept it very appropriate and just kept it very true to the story. My one complaint about this book was that you're developing this character, and then at the end she almost had to do some quick character changes to actually make her look more like the Jyn that we meet in Rogue One, and kind of switch some of the things you were developing through the book. So I didn't like the inconsistency of some of the character building with Jyn, because you already have an established character. But I still, again, really enjoyed this book, really liked this book. I was just well surprised with how good this book was. Coming in at number 1 was a book that I batted back and forth all summer, deciding if I should even read this book, if I will even like it, but I was so intrigued by the cover and what it was about. It was also a complete surprise to me of how much I loved this book, how much I related to this book, and how much this book actually was so relevant to a lot of things in my life, and that was Maud by Melanie J. Fishbane. I loved this book so much, and I was just blown away. Like I said, I went back and forth all summer looking at this beautiful cover, looking at this book, picking it up in chapters, debating back and forth pretty much all summer until August, when I finally said, you know what, I'm gonna pick it up and try it. And it ended up being my favorite book of 2017. It was so well written. It was so beautiful. The research and history that went into looking into Maud's life. By the way, it is actually about L.M. Montgomery, who is the author of the Anne of Green Gables series, just so you know. So it is a Canadian author writing about a Canadian author about a very beloved Canadian series. This book was extremely Canadian, and I think that's another reason I liked it so much. There's just so many moments in here that I connected with Maud personally. I connected with her home-wise, and just there's so many connections with this character. And like I said, the research and the looking into this real person's life that went into a fictional telling of her life was just brilliantly done. I was just taken aback of how much I related to this and how much I loved this book, and I have sung its praises. I've told people to go get it. I've told people if you're debating it, you should just go pick it up. I have given it as gifts to people. I have lent it out to a friend, and I've lent a book out. I rarely do that, but I had to lend it out because she loves Anne of Green Gables, and I was like, no, you need to read this. It was so good. So like I said, loved this book so much. Obviously, it was a 5-star rating, and it was number 1 for this year. So I just want to actually read to you one of my favorite quotes, and I think I read it in my review, but I grew up in the prairies of Canada. I grew up in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, Alberta. I've been to Ontario. I've been to BC. So I've traveled actually quite a bit of Canada, but I mostly know the prairies really well. And there's just one quote in here, and I've lived in the city of Winnipeg, Manitoba before. It's just one quote that actually made me so homesick. I considered packing up and moving back to Winnipeg. I just was so well done. And it's after a short stop in Winnipeg, which looked as though someone had threw a handful of streets and houses down and forgot to sort them out, she and Grandpa finally arrived in Regina, Saskatchewan at 5 o'clock in the morning. Winnipeg literally still looks like that. As far as I know, it literally looks like someone goes, boom, here's some streets and houses, have fun sorting that out. I felt so homesick for that afterwards, and honestly, like hearing towns like Estevan, Saskatchewan, Regina, Saskatchewan, and towns in Ontario, because my grandma was originally from Ontario as well, just hearing all of these places she went through, it was so homesteading and so Canadian that I just fell in love with this story. And I could probably keep going on about this, but that's going to be a really long video, so I won't. So number 1 was Maud by Melanie J. Fishburne. So those are all my favorite books of 2017. Obviously you can see what the clear number 1 book was, because I'm still gushing about it and telling people about it. I had a very good reading year. I'm still very close to my Goodreads challenge as to the filming of this video. I had so many months where I read, like, either I had a really big reading month or I had a minimal reading month. The end of the year did kind of die down because of my second job, but overall just the quality of the books I've read versus the quantity of the books I've read this year has just been incredible, and also joining people on read-alongs with certain books and the great books we've had for our book club. I'm excited for 2018. I'm excited for what's coming out, and I'm just really, really pleased with what I read in 2017. So that's it for me today, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!